Hey, this is John Miller with God Moments. We've been talking about the credibility of the Bible and how it's true and that it's God breathed. Every word is useful for teaching, rebuking, training, and correcting for the man of God to be thoroughly equipped for every good work. Now that you know that, you need to be reading the Bible. And as you're reading, you need to be convinced of what you're learning. Okay, when people come and tell you that it says such and such in the Bible, you need to not just take their word for it, but you need to look and see if it actually does say that. And you should be so familiar with the Bible that if somebody says something that's off the wall and actually isn't in the Bible, you should say, no, it doesn't say that. All right. But if you're not, you need to continue to read and keep reading until you are very familiar with what it says in the Bible. Now, there's this story in 1 Kings chapter 13. This man is a prophet and he is told to go prophesy against the altar of King Jeroboam. And so he does this, and he's told once he's finished with that to go home a different way and not eat or drink anything till he gets home. Kind of interesting instructions from God there. And so he's off on his way home. And this other prophet heard about this, and he got on his donkey and went and tracked him down and invited him back to his house for dinner. He said, hey, you look a little bit famished. Why don't you come over and eat? I'll give you something to drink and refresh you. And the guy was like, no, God told me to go straight home and not eat it or drink anything till I get home. But he says, I too am a prophet, and God told me to refresh you. And so the younger prophet says, okay. And he goes home with him, and he's eating food and drinking, and then suddenly the older prophet gets a word from God. He says, you will not be buried with your fathers. And because you have disobeyed me, this is going to be your discipline, your punishment. And so the younger prophet was like, oh no. And so he gets on his donkey and he's headed off home. And this lion strikes him dead, doesn't eat him, and doesn't eat his donkey that he was on, but just stands there. And so the older prophet heard about this. Then he went and got the young prophet, and he told his son to bury him in his tomb, and that also when he dies to bury him along with him, because he truly was a prophet of God, and what he prophesied against the altar will happen. So I'm just like totally confused and wondering, why did he go out and lie to him? And why did he persuade him to come home and eat against what God had told him? The whole thing is very confusing. But what I got from it, though, is that when God tells us something, we need to follow his instructions to the T. We need to make sure that we know that God, what God has said. And when he does say something to us, we need to stick to that. Okay, so when we got New Agers and woke people telling us that homosexuality is okay, no, it's not. When we've got the priest and things telling us that, if you give me some money, I'll get you out of purgatory. There's no such thing as purgatory. Read the Bible. It's not there. Okay, if we feel like, hey, I can get married or not get married and live with the woman that I want and have sex and everything. No, you can't. That's not how it works in the Bible. Okay, read the Bible, know God's word. I love you and so does God. Read his word.